Hello everyone, this is Diane Graziano and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Sage Inventory Advisor, Automate Your Inventory Processes. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. Management is the lifeblood of your business and your inventory represents one of the biggest numbers on your balance sheet. So it's no wonder you're trying to manage it effectively, and Sage Inventory Advisor can help. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin the presentation. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute your line or submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We will be answering questions throughout the presentation and following up afterwards to answer additional questions. I'd like to introduce today's speaker. From Sage, we have industry expert Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson has been in the software industry for over 20 years. During that time, he's been working with advanced planning and scheduling solutions at Sage, JD Edwards, and MCA Solutions. At Sage, Tom is the product sales specialist for Sage Inventory Advisor. He has an MBA in operations planning from the University of California at Riverside. At this point, Tom, I believe we're ready to transition the presentation over to you.
Okay, Diane. Hey, thanks very much. And again, I want to echo Diane's thanks for joining today's call. I really appreciate your time. As she said, I'm the product specialist for Sage for Inventory Advisor. My pleasure to speak with you today. What I have prepared is a very short PowerPoint introduction that will introduce the concepts of a planning tool, compare and contrast that to your Sage ERP platform, and then I can pull up a live instance of Inventory Advisor and give a navigational tour. We'll start at a high level and drill down into some detail as we go. Then I'll wrap up with a couple of slides that talk about the pricing and the installation of Inventory Advisor, and we'll leave plenty of time at the end to answer questions. So without further ado, let me jump in, and I'd like to introduce Inventory Advisor. Inventory Advisor is an example of a connected service. And one of the things Sage is trying to do is to enhance the investment our customers have made in our ERP platforms. Inventory Advisor works with our Sage 100, 300, 500, and X3 platforms by offering solutions that complement or extend that investment. And more, our customers are asking that these extensions be deployed in a cloud or internet-enabled environment so that you can access it 24/7 from any device, any browser. And because planning tools can be quite expensive, even price prohibitive if you were to pay the full license fee up front, instead, Sage has put Inventory Advisor on a month-to-month subscription. There is no long-term commitment. Instead, you're only committed to the first month. If after the first month this doesn't meet your needs, or any time after the first month, you can cancel or terminate the subscription. But Inventory Advisor is a planning tool. It's an inventory planning tool that taps into or harnesses the rich transactional data that's in your ERP system, harnesses that information, uses it with industry best practices and analytics to recommend optimal inventory levels and replenishment timeframes. It'll identify at any given stocking level what your inventory is, recommend what it should be, given the demand and lead time for those items. It'll identify any items you have too much of, what impact that's having on your business, any items you're out of or about to run out of, what impact that could have on customer service and sales. And if you are spending a lot of time figuring out what that optimal inventory or replenishment should be, this will automate that process, again, with an industry best practice based on analytics tools. In fact, if you look at your current Sage ERP system, it does a pretty good job keeping track of what your current inventory is, what is in stock, where the items are located, on-hand balances. It keeps track of transactions, hundreds of details from costing to pricing. But that system doesn't necessarily answer the question, is that what should be in stock? Again, it tells you at a great level of detail what is in stock, but doesn't answer the question what should be in stock, given the demand for the items, lead time from your suppliers, what should you be carrying, when should you place orders, given that lead time, to keep that inventory at an optimal level. And most of our customers have to make those decisions outside of Sage ERP. And it can often result in a lot of inventory challenges. In fact, 42% of our customers have said they struggle with running out of inventory, stocking out, which could have impacts on customer service and sales. 37% have said they struggle with the opposite problem, overbuying, ending up with too much or excess inventory that has money tied up in working capital that could be used for other things. And roughly 21% of our customers have said, in addition to those two problems, they just spend way too much time trying to figure out in a manual process, usually some kind of a report fed into some kind of a spreadsheet so that they can determine what that inventory should be. And they're looking for something that is more robust and more automated. And that's what Inventory Advisor brings to the table. It does not replace anything in your ERP system. Again, it taps into the rich transactional data, harnesses that information to give you inventory best practice recommendations. But what Inventory Advisor brings to the table is inside the circle. And it starts, first and foremost, with a forecasting engine. It's pretty hard to determine what your inventory should be without a pretty good profile of your demand into the future. So Inventory Advisor has a very robust forecasting engine, and I'll show you that in some detail in the software. It also has an ordering and scheduling engine. So for every item, whether it's a finished good or whether it's a component or raw material that goes into a kit or a finished good, Inventory Advisor will recommend a minimum stocking level, a maximum stocking level. It'll calculate a reorder point. Then given the demand for the item, lead time from your suppliers, any orders that you may already have in place with those suppliers, it will recommend when you should place orders to keep that inventory at an optimal level. And it'll recommend work orders for an item that you make. It'll recommend purchase orders for suppliers for those items that you purchase. And if you're starting to run out of an item or you have too much of an item, it will alert you so that you can make decisions to start to rectify those problems. Now, the way it works is Inventory Advisor is a cloud-delivered service represented by the cloud at the top. Sage will set up your instance of Inventory Advisor on a Sage-provided server. Sage will set up a connector through the internet to your Sage ERP server. That connector is highly secure. It's encrypted with keys on both ends. Your instance of Inventory Advisor is unique to you. Only you have access to it. But on a daily basis, and if you want to run this more or less frequently, you can, Inventory Advisor will connect to your Sage ERP system and upload several files. These are read-only files. Inventory Advisor is not touching your transactional data. It's just reading some files. So your sales history, any orders you have in place with your suppliers, orders from your customers, on-hand balances, your bill of materials if you do any kitting or manufacturing. That data is uploaded into your instance of Inventory Advisor. It takes about 10 minutes, and then Inventory Advisor will disconnect from your ERP server. That data will go into your instance of Inventory Advisor, where it'll go through a series of calculations. Then your planners, your purchasing managers, anyone that you want to have access to the planning tool can. The subscription is for unlimited users. These users are not affiliated with your Sage ERP logins, so you're not burning up a user ID and you're not adding to the maintenance that you're paying on your ERP. Your access is for anyone that you want to access Inventory Advisor, and you can access it from any browser. Internet Explorer, Safari, Chrome, any device that supports a browser. I've demonstrated this on my iPhone, my iPad. Today I'm in my home office on my laptop using Internet Explorer, but it looks exactly the same. It just depends on what device is most convenient for you. But you'll be presented with a series of planning recommendations, starting with what we call a dashboard, which is a high-level summary. It's a summary of the inventory at any given stocking location, so that you can quickly glance, get a feel for the health of your inventory, the areas and items that need attention, the items that have the biggest impact on your business. From there, you can drill into lots of details so that you can make decisions, and you can produce what's called an order schedule that shows you everything you need to make or buy, broken out by supplier. And if you do decide to use that information to make a purchase recommendation, you can review, make those decisions in Inventory Advisor, and send that file back to your ERP, imported into the purchase order module to create a purchase order. Now, what Inventory Advisor is designed to do is really a couple of things. From an inventory perspective, it's designed to alert you or give you a heads up on those items that need attention. From there, you can drill into detail with all of the information you need to make decisions to address those items. It'll also recommend what you need to order, whether that's a work order for a manufactured item or a purchase order for a purchased item. But to do that, it brings several capabilities to the table. Starting on the bottom left, it has a very robust what's called product importance or item classification. And an industry best practice is not all items contribute the same to your business. Some items contribute greater in terms of sales. Other items contribute greater in terms of inventory turns. And the industry best practice is you certainly want to know which items contribute the most to your business, because you might want to set more aggressive replenishment policies for those items. And if you are starting to run out or you have too much of those items, you want to know so that you can make decisions. There's a very robust forecast engine, and again, we'll talk about that in the software. But just a little more clarity on that product importance. Inventory Advisor will automatically load the sales history for every item. It will then use that sales history to rank how that item contributes to your business, both in terms of sales and in terms of inventory turns. And in terms of sales, it'll rank that item as either an A, B, or a C item. Now, the default is those items that generate 80% of the value to your business are considered A items. The logic is usually it's an 80-20 rule, where 20% of the items are generating 80% of the value. B's are the next 16%, and C's are the bottom 4. Those parameters are easily changed. But it'll identify the item's contribution based on its sales contribution. Then it'll take the same item and rank it based on its inventory turns. And it'll rank it as high, medium, or low. So that produces a 3x3 matrix. And every item is going to fall into one of those 9 boxes, which is the intersection of an A, B, or C row and a high, medium, or low column. So those items in the upper right, those are the intersections of your A's and your high moving items. And those are items that you might want to set more aggressive replenishment policies. So those items in green, those are your bread and butter items. You want to set more aggressive replenishment policies, and you certainly want to be alerted if those items are starting to stock out. But again, it starts by identifying which items contribute the most to your business. At the end of the day, what most of our customers tell us is of their existing inventory, typically 2 to 10% is in some kind of a stocked out status. Either you're out of an item or you're about to run out of an item, which could have an impact on customer service or sales. 10 to 15% of that existing inventory is in some kind of an excess or surplus status, where you have more inventory than you need, money tied up in working capital that could be used for other things. And roughly half of a planner's time is not necessarily spent making planning decisions, but spent pulling together all the information you need to make planning decisions. So Inventory Advisor will not replace the planner, will not replace the expertise or the knowledge you have in your business and industry. What it will replace is the manual or report-driven, maybe spreadsheet-driven tools you're using now to make decisions. Replace those with something much more automated, automatically pull and collect the data you need out of Sage ERP, harness that with industry best practices to recommend industry best practice and analytical recommendations on what your inventory should be. And from there, you can spend most of your time analyzing that information and making decisions, and less time collecting data and maintaining spreadsheets. And if you can impact all 3 of those areas, or even just one of those areas, if you can eliminate excess inventory and free up working capital, if you can improve stockouts and improve customer service and improve sales, and if you can give planners tools that give them more productivity and effectiveness, then you will improve all 3 of those areas, and the ROI can be substantial against a monthly subscription. So that's a quick introduction to Inventory Advisor. Again, it's a planning tool. It's an extension to the investment you've made in Sage ERP, tapping into that rich transactional data, giving you industry best practice recommendations on managing inventory, and it'll allow you to spend more time making decisions and less time managing data. So I'm going to switch gears, and I am going to pull up a live instance of Inventory Advisor. Bear with me one second. But if you follow my little cursor on the left, I am on a live internet connection. Now, I happen to be on my laptop. I happen to be using Internet Explorer, but this would look exactly the same whether I was on an iPhone using Safari or a Droid or an iPad. I've demonstrated on all of those devices. But today I'm using Internet Explorer. Again, it just depends on what device is most convenient for you. But you can access a cloud-delivered service wherever you are 24/7. Now, Inventory Advisor is highly scalable. We have customers with less than $100,000 of inventory using this tool. We've got a customer with over 100 million. My demo database happens to have about 10, just to give you a feel for the scale. I'm going to go ahead and shrink the menu bar so that we can see the full screen. But when you first log on to Inventory Advisor, you do see what is called the dashboard. And a dashboard is that high-level overview at any given stocking location, giving you recommendations and insights to those items that do need attention, those items that have a big or critical impact to your business. Now, if you do have multiple locations, Los Angeles happens to be the main stocking location in my demonstration database. But if you do have multiple stocking locations, this works for multi-companies, multi-locations. If you do have those are data or stocking locations that you store, that you maintain in Sage ERP, and those are loaded into Inventory Advisor. In my demonstration database, I have 4 physical stocking locations. Los Angeles is a standard stocking location that stores inventory and replenishes from suppliers. We also have the concept of a central warehouse, and it does the same thing. It stores inventory, replenishes from suppliers, but in addition, it supports forward or remote stocking locations. So my Detroit and New York branches do store inventory, but they do not replenish from a supplier. They replenish from the central warehouse. And so that demand needs to pass up. The central warehouse replenishes on their behalf and recommends transfer orders from the central warehouse to the remote locations. We also have the concept of virtual locations. So maybe you've got vendor-managed inventory out at a customer site. You can set those up as locations as well. But just to demonstrate the dashboard, I'm going to pick on my main location, which is my Los Angeles stocking location. And what we're looking at is the dashboard for the inventory in Los Angeles. And the idea of the dashboard, this is that shot that shows you the items that need attention, a quick glance showing you where the health of your inventory, where you need to pay some attention, and it's broken out in several panels. The first panel is called Stock Holding, and it shows that right now in Los Angeles, you are carrying $10.4 million of inventory at your cost. The planning tool, though, is recommending you should be carrying 6.9. That would be the optimal inventory given the demand for the items and the lead time from your suppliers to fulfill that demand. You can see how that inventory has been trending over time. Each of the bars represents a period of time. There are 12. And they can be displayed in days, weeks, or months. So you can see how your inventory has been trending over the last 12 days, 12 weeks, 12 months. I'll just leave it at weeks. And here's how your inventory has been trending over the last 12 weeks. With yellow being the first time data was loaded into Sage Inventory Advisor. And if I hover, at that time you were carrying $10.8 million of inventory. You can see how it's been trending in this case over the weeks, with the top of the blue bar being your actual inventory, the shaded area being the model or recommended inventory. You can see how that's been trending, with red simply being the last time data was loaded from ERP, which usually was yesterday, at which time you were carrying 10.4 against a recommendation of 6.9. So with a quick glance, I can see that I've got quite a bit more inventory than the tool is recommending. In fact, if I slide over to the next panel, you do have some excess stock in the Los Angeles warehouse. In fact, there are 2,190 items in excess, and that excess inventory is costing your business $3.4 million. And if I hover where it says 3.4, where it says full report, if I click there, that'll produce a list, an online report of all 2,190 items in excess. From that list, I can sort, filter, slice, come up with smaller, more manageable lists based on any sorting or grouping you've set up, and I can start to manage that excess inventory. But on the dashboard, we're trying to bring your attention to the top 5. These are the 5 items that are currently in excess that are costing you the most money. These 5 items alone are costing you $288,000 in excess inventory. Almost 10% of your problem is represented by just 5 items. So if you do nothing else on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you might really want to pay attention to these top 5 lists, because as you manage, in this case, excess, as you start to burn these items down, you'll start to see a new list of 5, and eventually you'll start to see that inventory, that excess inventory, trending down towards 0, which is where you want it. But that's where you have too much inventory right now. A little more forward-looking, we've identified some items that are currently on order, either on work order if it's a manufactured item, or purchase order if it's a purchased item. We've identified 411 items currently on order and are predicting, based on the arrival date, the estimated demand, the on-stock balances at that time, we are predicting that when those orders arrive, that inventory is going to go straight to excess, in this case costing you an additional $1.5 million of excess inventory. We call those surplus orders. Those would be some orders you might want to review now. Maybe make a decision to cancel or delay those orders. The idea is to try to stop the excess before it becomes excess. So kind of a heads up, here's some orders that are going to go straight to excess. You might still have some time to rectify the problem. So these first 3 panels are dealing with where do you have too much inventory. The next 3 panels are looking at the opposite side of the coin. Are there any items you don't have enough of? And it starts with what's called fill rate. which is over the last 30 days, did you have an item in stock or not to meet your demand? And right now you're achieving an 86% fill rate, meaning 86% of the time you needed an item, you had it. And you're doing that with $10.4 million of inventory. But you could be achieving a 97% target and doing it with just $6.9 million if you had the right mix of items. So clearly we're out of balance. It's not just a matter of that we have too much inventory. Because we're not meeting our target fill rates, there's other items we don't have enough of. In fact, right now you are stocked out. In the Los Angeles warehouse, there are 924 items with no or zero inventory. But there's demand on those items. So until you replenish, which is either until the next order arrives, if there's an order in place, or it's full lead time if you have to place an order from scratch. But during that time that you have no inventory with demand, you are at risk of not being able to fulfill that sale. Does not mean you will lose the sale, but you are at risk. And that risk could cost you as much as $841,000 in lost sales. I can look at all 924 items in a report, or again, here are the top 5. These 5 items alone put you at risk of almost $300,000 in lost sales. Over 1/3 of your problem is again represented by just 5 items. So if you do nothing else, this would be 5 items we highly recommend you look at. The decisions you need to make here are, hey, if these items are out, your first question is, do you have something coming in? If it's coming in today or tomorrow, maybe it's not a big deal. But if it's not coming in for 2, 3, 4 weeks or a few months, you have problems. And maybe you need to expedite an order. Maybe you need to move an item from one location to another. But this will give you all of the information you need to make those decisions as I drill down into the detail, which we'll do in a minute. But that's where you're stocked out right now. Again, a little more forward-looking, we want to give you a heads up. Here's some items that you're about to run out of. These are items that you have some inventory, but we're predicting before your next replenishment you will run out. We call those potential stockouts. And right now in my demonstration database, there's 42 items in Los Angeles that are about to stock out. When you do, it could cost you another $161,000 in lost sales. These are the top 5. So if I stand back, day in the life of a planner, purchasing manager, I can come in and at a quick glance, I can toggle between my different stocking locations if I have multiple, but with a quick glance, I can see what my inventory is, what the tool recommends it should be, where do I have too much inventory, what impact that's having on my business, which are the most critical to pay some attention to, are there any items I'm out of or about to run out of, what impact could that potentially have on sales, which are the most critical to pay some attention to. So from here you can do a lot of things. Maybe you want to drill into a few of these items on the dashboard because they're critical to your business. You might need some information to make decisions. Or maybe you just want to say, hey, just show me everything I need to make or everything I need to buy broken out by supplier. We call that an order schedule. So let me show you all of that. But let's start by drilling into an item because I want you to see the kind of information that Inventory Advisor is analyzing and the recommendations it's making. So let's drill into an item. I don't know, let's pick one of these that's about to stock out. Let's pick this middle one, ST9503. You know what? I don't remember what that is, but if I hover, it'll show that the item description, which is a data feed out of your ERP. The little shadow simply says there's a comment, and if I click on it, it'll show what that comment is. This is an A item. It's a medium turning item. It's about to stock out. Let's open it up and see what kind of information Inventory Advisor is recommending. So I click on the item, and it will take me to the detail, in this case for ST9503. And it lays out the same for every item. And the short story on ST9503, as it currently sits in Los Angeles, is that Inventory Advisor is suggesting this item is about to stock out, and you should place an order with the Consolidated Tire Company, your supplier, for 300 units. Now that might be the extent of your analysis. Hey, this item was flagged on the dashboard, it's critical to my business, I'm about to stock out, haven't stocked out yet, but I'm about to stock out, and Inventory Advisor is suggesting you place an order for 300. That might be all the analysis you do. Now does that mean you need to look up every item to see if you need to place an order? Absolutely not. That's what that order schedule does. This is just one item we've drilled into. So let me walk in, I'll show you the order schedule, but first let me show you how Inventory Advisor came up with this 300. Well, Inventory Advisor is going to compare what your inventory is to what it should be. So let's start with what your inventory is. This is just data right out of your ERP. And right now, you have 73 units of ST9503 in your Los Angeles stocking location. Your Sage ERP told us you have 11 on back order. You've got 6 that are allocated or promised. Therefore, you have 56 units available. Now, you do have 10 on order. Well, it might be nice to know when those are going to arrive. So I don't have to go back to Sage ERP and run a report. I can simply scroll down, and there's several tabs. One is, what are your current purchase orders? And if I click that tab, it'll show any outstanding purchase orders you have on this item, when it's expected to arrive, and the quantity. And when those 10 arrive, you will have 66 available units. Well, that's in Los Angeles. What if I need to move some items? What if it'd be nice to know if I've got this item at another location. Well, this is how it sits in Los Angeles. Let's go see what this item, ST9503, what is its status at the other stocking locations? Maybe I've got some excess. Well, it turns out I don't. But I have visibility to that information, so I can know very quickly if I've got the option to move some items from one location to another. So here's a very thorough analysis of what your inventory is. Now let's look at what it should be. And again, it's pretty hard to determine what your inventory should be. You don't have a pretty good profile of your demand into the future. So Inventory Advisor has a very robust forecasting engine. Inventory Advisor will automatically load the sales history for every item. You can have up to 5 years. This particular item has 27 months of sales history, which is represented graphically in blue. Inventory Advisor will compare that pattern in blue to 15 different forecast methods. It'll test each one. So it's going to look for trends, patterns, spikes. It's going to look at methods like linear regression, sum of the year's digits, exponential smoothing. It's going to look for seasonal patterns. And for this particular pattern in blue, Inventory Advisor did determine that a seasonal pattern is apparent, and so that a seasonal modeling technology is the best method to forecast future demand. So Inventory Advisor has selected a seasonal forecasting method and has used it to create a computer-generated forecast for the next 12 months, which is represented graphically in yellow. Everything you see here happened automatically. Inventory Advisor loaded the sales history, selected the best forecasting method, and has used it to create a computer-generated forecast. Now, if you want to go in and make an adjustment to that forecast, you certainly can. You may not do that for a lot of items, but on any given item, if you want to, you can. In fact, if I scroll down, one of those tabs is Forecast. And at this level, I can see all 27 periods of sales history. I can see the computer-generated forecast in yellow, graphically based on a seasonal model. I can see the same information in a table. Now, if you want to go in and make an adjustment to the forecast, maybe you're phasing this item out and you want to start to down the forecast, ramp it down. Or maybe there's a big sales promotion on this item and you want to increase the forecast. If you want to go in and make an adjustment, all you have to do is hit the Amend Forecast tab, and it'll peel back the onion and take me one layer deeper into the forecast. And at this layer, I can see the same sales history. I can see the same computer-generated forecast. But now you have the ability to go in and make an adjustment. And either the computer forecast or your manual forecast will be promoted down to the final. And you can see the two side by side. Yellow is the computer forecast, green is any adjustments you've made, and it's as easy as checking a box. If the box is checked, use your manual number as the final. If the box is not checked, use the computer forecast as the final. And as I turn those check marks off, you'll see that green collapse, and now we're back to the computer-generated forecast. So one technique for adjusting a forecast is to simply check a box and type in a number. Another technique is you might want to select a range. So I've just selected the next 3 months. And let's say for this item, I've got a big sales promotion. I want to increase my forecast by, I don't know, maybe 20%. So I can grab this little slider, move it over to 20%, and you can see the green change. But what I did was I didn't try to outthink the computer profile. I just wanted to put a 20% increase for the next 3 months. And so I used the slider to do that. Now, a third technique is if you just want to import your own forecast, you can. Put it on a template on your Sage ERP server, and we can load it right in, and you can see your forecast side by side the computer forecast. So several ways to make an adjustment. And if I hit Apply Forecast, now I made a very subtle change to the forecast, but it did change. Give me a moment, and I'll make a dramatic change so you can see the impact to the replenishment. So a very robust forecast. Now, the next thing Inventory Advisor is going to do is recommend the minimum stocking level. Now, you can set a minimum in Sage in the Item Master, but the question is, how did you set it? How did you determine what that minimum should be, and how often do you update it? What most of our customers tell me is that they kind of make a best guess and they don't update it very often. And getting the minimum stocking level right is critical to managing inventory. If you set that too high, you're going to start off with excess. If you set it too low, you're going to start to have stockouts. And so Inventory Advisor is going to use several very dynamic inputs to set that minimum stocking level. Well, remember that industry best practice? You might want to set a more aggressive target for your higher value, higher moving items. You absolutely want to look at the lead time, either the lead time to make the item if it's a manufactured item, or to purchase the item if it's with a supplier. This particular item, you can load the lead time from ERP, either at the item or supplier level. This particular item, the estimated lead time is 90 days. Well, just because I have a 90-day lead time doesn't necessarily mean the supplier is going to deliver in 90 days. Things happen. They may not deliver on time. They may deliver the wrong quantity. So the question is, what's the risk that this supplier, what's the risk that they deliver inside of 90 days or not? If they're always late, we should increase the safety stock. So one of the things Inventory Advisor will do is load just that. Is this supplier performing? Are they delivering on time? Are they delivering the right quantity? And we can see that graphically, or we can see the actual transactions. These are the transactions you've placed on this supplier for this item. Turns out this supplier's doing pretty good. In fact, they're doing better than the stated lead time. So the risk to the supplier not delivering on time is pretty low here. Well, what's the risk that this forecast isn't perfect? Well, Inventory Advisor is going to track the forecast to actual sales. We'll alert you to any items that need attention that you're over or under forecasted, and we'll also use that to recommend the minimum safety stock. So all of that goes into our recommendation. We call it safety stock, but this is the minimum stock you should be carrying for this item in Los Angeles. Well, 5 days. What in the world does that mean? How many units of this item do we need to be carrying? It all comes together in this policy panel. And Inventory Advisor is going to look at it in both days of coverage and transpose it into units. So let's start with days. This is a textbook equation. When you take your lead time, which was imported from Sage ERP, and you add it to your safety stock, which was just calculated by Inventory Advisor, together that equals your reorder point. When your inventory goes below 95 days of coverage, place an order. Well, for what period do you place the order depends on your cover forward period. This item was set for 30 days. So when you go below 95, place an order for 30, which gets you to your max. So here is your min, your reorder point, and your max in days of coverage. The question is, how does that transpose into units? How many units do you need to cover that 90 days of lead time, to cover that 5 days of safety stock? Well, it depends on the forecast. So based on this forecast in yellow, you need 250 units just to meet your demand over lead time. So now in units, driven off of a forecast that you've reviewed and adjusted, here is your min, your reorder point, and your max. And Inventory Advisor does that every day for every item at every location. In fact, let me show you the power of the forecast. Remember that 250. Let's go make an adjustment to the forecast. In fact, let's say, you know what, for the next 30 days, I've got no demand at all for this item. Let's zero that out. I'm about to put a big spike in the forecast. Let's apply that. Notice two things. Now look at your yellow. It starts at 0. For the next 30 days, I've got no demand. Well, that means, if you notice, I went from 250, I'm now at 199. You need a lot less inventory or units to meet that same demand over lead time. My forecast just dropped. So now, in units, driven off of a forecast that I've just made a pretty dramatic adjustment to, here's your min, here is your reorder point, and here is your max. And again, Inventory Advisor does that for every item, every location, every day. Now let's compare that to what your stock on hand is. Remember that 66 units? Well, heads up, red flag. 66 units isn't even enough to meet your demand over lead time. So you will run out before you can replenish again. 66 units is below your reorder point, so that's going to trigger a recommendation to place an order. And the recommendation that Inventory Advisor recommends is enough to get you back to your max. So the difference between 66 and 247 is ideally, you should place an order for 181 units. Well, then why is it telling me to order 300? Because your ERP system told us you have a rule set up that you can't order less than 300 for this item from this supplier. So even though Inventory Advisor's recommending you order 181, it's going to honor the MOQ, the minimum order quantity, and that's what it's recommending you order. If you didn't have an MOQ, Inventory Advisor would recommend you order the 181. So Inventory Advisor is doing all of this for every item at every location every day. Now again, do you have to look up every item to see if you need to place an order? No. This is just one example we drilled into because this was an item that was flagged on the dashboard as being an item that's about to stock out and very critical to my business. So we opened it up, looked at it, and I agree we need to place an order. Now, again, do I have to look that up for every item? No. After you've looked at a few items, you might just want to go produce what's called the order schedule. And with one click of a button, what Inventory Advisor is going to show you is every item you need to order, broken out by location, across all my suppliers, and here's the list. This is a list of every item that has triggered a reorder point broken out by supplier. So as an example, the Consolidated Tire Company. Inventory Advisor is recommending you place 4 items on order. Now, you may order 100 items from this supplier, but today 4 have triggered that reorder point. It's recommending 4,958 units. It's going to cost $333,000. And if you've got cubic feet and weight set up in your item master, it'll tally that up for you, which might be very helpful if you're trying to fill up a truck or a container. But for each one of those 4 items, Inventory Advisor will give you the detail, and as a purchasing manager, if you want to review that detail, ultimately create a purchase order and send it back to ERP for execution, all you have to do is select the supplier, and let's go look at those 4 items in a little more detail so that we can drill down, drill around, possibly make some adjustments and edits as we go. But ultimately, I want to create a purchase order. And what we're now looking at is the recommended purchase order for the Consolidated Tire Company for the Los Angeles warehouse. Here is the running total, 4 items, units, cost, weight, and for each one of those 4 items, in the order schedule, Inventory Advisor will show you a summary of that detailed information. In fact, here's that same item we just made an adjustment to the forecast. It'll show you graphically that forecast. It'll show you in days and units that information. Hey, before I place this order, maybe I've got some excess at another site. Might be nice to know that. I hit the On Hand button, and it'll show what this item's status is at all the other locations. It'll show this item's contribution to your business. Right now, this item's about to stock out. Inventory Advisor is recommending you place 300 items on order. Well, actually, it's recommending you order 181, but it's honoring that MOQ. They're $64 each. This line item will cost $19,000, and with a lead time of 90 days, you can expect it to arrive on January 16th. If that isn't enough information in the order schedule to validate the recommendation that you should place 300 items on order, you can always drill back to the detail from here. In fact, let's do it in a new window. Here's the item in the order schedule. Here's the item detail. And from here, I can drill down, drill around, look at information as I need. And you know what? After drilling into that information, with my expertise on this product, this industry, I would be a little more comfortable if I added a little. So let's bump that up a bit. And I just added 10 items to this order, $641. And here is now the running total. And I can continue to review all of the other items that Inventory Advisor is suggesting I purchase. Now, these are just the 4 items that have triggered a reorder point. Now, it doesn't mean you can't order other items. If you want to add some other items to this order, maybe you're trying to fill up a truck, or maybe you're trying to get to a certain price break. Well, let's say I'm trying to get to $335,000. Well, the 4 items that Inventory Advisor is recommending didn't get me there. Well, I can certainly go in and add some more items, but you know what? That may not make a lot of sense, because I don't know how much more I want to add, because here's the optimal order. I'm already ordering quite a bit more. I'm not too worried about it because they're high-moving items. Same thing with this next item. I don't really want to add too much more. I'm already ordering 400. I really only need 136. Good news is it's a high-value, high-moving item, so it'll probably turn fast. But if I want to add some additional items to fill out this order to get to 335,000, I probably don't want to add any more units to these 4. Well, show me anything else I can order from this supplier. Well, let's go look at the list. Let's look at everything else I order from this supplier, and these are all of the other items you order from this not yet triggered a reorder point. Now at this level, I can see the item, I can drill into the detail from here, I can see what's on order, what's in stock, I can scroll through this entire list. But one of the things we've added is we call it the top-off feature, which says, hey, out of all of these items that I order from this supplier, if I'm trying to get to a certain goal, maybe a certain number of units, cost, volume, weight, I'm trying to fill up a truck, but let's say I'm trying to get to a cost of $335,000. Right now at $334,000, if I'm trying to get to $335,000, which of those items would make the most sense to add to this order? And it has selected a couple, and it got me as close to $335,000 as it could get. And why did it pick this one? Because those are items you're probably going to order very soon anyway. You're getting close to a reorder point. So Inventory Advisor is suggesting some items to add to this order that have not yet triggered a reorder point, but if you're trying to round or top off this order, these would be some good candidates because they're items you're going to need soon anyway. Let's add those to the order. And now, for the Consolidated Tire Company, we've actually gone in and updated one of the items. We've added 2 additional items altogether for the purpose of trying to top off. We're comfortable with this order. We're now ready to turn it over to Sage ERP and create a purchase order. I don't have to go key it in. All I have to do is hit the download button, and this will be transferred as a file from Inventory Advisor and imported into ERP, and a purchase order will be created. Now, you still need to execute the purchase order. Any rules, procedures, workflows, approval processes still apply, and you still need to execute that, but you make your decisions in Inventory Advisor. And if I go back to the dashboard, what you'll start to see as you use this tool is over time you'll start to see your inventory trend towards the model. You'll start to see your excess inventory trending down towards zero as you start to manage your excess inventory and start to work it out of your business. And as you start to eliminate stockouts or stop them before they become stockouts, you'll start to see your stockouts slow down and you'll start to improve your customer service and sales. And again, if you can eliminate stockouts and improve customer service and sales, if you can eliminate excess inventory and eliminate the money tied up in working capital, and if you can give planners tools that make them more productive, again, the ROI on this subscription can be quite substantial. In fact, let's use that as a transition back to the PowerPoint. And what I'd like to do is just talk for a moment about the pricing and the installation, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So Inventory Advisor is a little different paradigm in both licensing and installing software. First of all, it's for unlimited users. As many people can access Inventory Advisor as you want. Does not impact what your users for Sage ERP or your maintenance. You're only committed to 1 month. Anytime after the first month, you can cancel if this doesn't meet your needs. There is a one-time setup fee of $2,250, and that covers Sage's cost of setting up your instance of Inventory Advisor on a Sage-provided server, setting up the connector through the internet to your Sage ERP server and loading your data, providing training and some consulting services to get you up and running. Then there is a monthly fee, and that monthly fee is based on 2 components. There is a base fee of $199, and then we have what's called a value fee, which is based on a rate for every $250,000 of inventory you're planning in the tool. And that's how we keep this scalable across our smaller and larger customers. So, for instance, if you had $1 million of inventory, you would be in the up to $1 million range, which is $22.50 for every $250,000, and that would be added to the $199. So you'd be at right about $300 a month. So, and this is a live spreadsheet. So, hang on a minute. No, I apologize. I didn't get the spreadsheet loaded. Hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. I was going to plug in a number and give you an example. But for $1 million of inventory, that would be $22.50 for every $250,000 in addition to the $199. So you'd be right at about $300 a month. And if you'd like, I can give you, I've got another little calculator I can pull up and give you some exact numbers if you'd like to see that. But your commitment would be the monthly subscription, your first month, plus the setup fee. That would be your only commitment. Then Sage will charge you. It can be billed either against a credit card or a bank account. Sage will charge you every month, but any month after the first month, you can cancel. It's also a little different paradigm in installing software. It's a very rapid implementation. Because it is a cloud-delivered service, there are 5 onboarding steps. As part of that activation fee, or that $22.50, my Sage technical team will work with you across these 5 steps. And the first 2 are actually quite quick. My technical team will set up a WebEx, something like this, where we'll work together to understand your business, how your locations are set up, how they interact with each other, are there any items you want to plan or exclude from the planning tool. And we'll set up the connector, and at the end of about an hour, hour and a half, you'll be able to see your data in Inventory Advisor. Now, there's still quite a few steps. In fact, one of the first steps is you're going to want to validate the data that was loaded into Inventory Advisor from your ERP system. Because the reality of any planning tool is it's only as good as the data you put into it. So there's a very comprehensive report that comes out of the data feed in the Inventory Advisor, and it'll show the validity of the data. So it's going to look for things like, hey, do you have any outstanding and overdue purchase orders? Do you have any items whose cost is greater than your selling price? Do you have any items with negative on-hand balances? And it's going to flag those things, and you'll have a chance to go back to ERP and review those. That might take 10 minutes. It might take a couple of weeks, depending on the validity of your data. Depending on what comes out of that, you might want to adjust the scripts, and what scripts are those are the rules with what gets loaded in the Inventory Advisor. You can load everything. There might be some things you want to exclude, and we can work with you to refine those. You're going to want to take some training, and the training is delivered online as part of the setup fee. As many people can take it as many times as they want. If you took it start to finish and were very methodical, you're probably looking at somewhere between 5 and 8 hours. Then after you take the training, you're going to want to spend some time with my technical team to review any questions you had from the training, any questions you have from seeing your data in the tool, anything's fair game, how-to, navigation. Most of our customers need a couple of 3 or 4 of those sessions. And then there's a lot of help in the software. There's a gold level support plan that's included in the monthly subscription. You can get help online. You can get help in a chat right from Inventory Advisor itself. So a lot of help in the software. But realistically, you're looking at probably between 20 and 25 hours of your time. And usually it takes place over a 2 to 4 week time frame. And you're up and running and live on the software. It's also a little different paradigm in licensing software. It's one of the very few products that's purchased from Sage. Now, the team at Socius gets credit, and will be instrumental in helping you with the installation, especially if you need to set up any of or clean up any of your ERP data. But I would send you 2 documents. One is a 1-page order form. The other is a payment form that would identify how you want to set up the payment. And I'll be delighted to send that to you. In fact, let me leave with, here is a place that you can go if you want to get some more information online about Inventory Advisor. And if you have any questions to me, please don't hesitate to call me or shoot me an email. If you want to set up a more in-depth discussion of your specific inventory requirements, I'll be delighted to. If you'd like a proposal or an estimate of what your fees would be, just let me know what that your inventory value is, and I can turn that around very quickly. But by all means, if you have any questions as a result of this, please feel free to reach out to me. Back to the team at Socius, and I believe then we'll open it up for a Q&A.
Thanks, Tom. There are a few additional items we would like to mention before we start the Q&A. All upcoming events can be found on our website at socius1.com. Through December 29th, 2016, Sage ERP clients who are on a current maintenance plan will receive the first month's free with a subscription to Sage Inventory Advisor. And to see a list of other promotions, please visit our website and search for promotional offers. Then click on the Sage tab. Get on our calendar. Our schedules are filling up. Please contact your account manager if you should need any assistance with year-end updates or upgrading to the latest version of Sage. And to discuss how Sage Inventory Advisor can help your business, please contact Lori Ramsey or myself if you have any questions. And our contact information is currently shown on your screen.